Every single week, the trash truck comes and takes our 60-gallon trash can. Have you ever wondered where all that trash goes? Let me ask you something else. Do you recycle or compost at home? If your answer is no, hopefully you can rethink that answer today. My name is Abigail Denise, and for my senior project, I tried to find solutions to our world's biggest problem, our trash. First and foremost, what is the major problem with our trash? On average, Americans toss away about 5 pounds of trash per person per day. That correlates to 140 million pounds of trash in a landfill each year. And actually, landfills are quite inefficient. Some trash sits there for over 500 years before it fully decomposes. Even more worrying, our trash releases methane. Methane is the single most damaging gas to our ozone layer. Methane is 25 times more potent than CO2 and takes up about 20% of our global carbon emissions. Moreover, landfills account for 18% of our overall gas emissions. So 2 major problems: trash buildup and gas production. Furthermore, gas production creates even more problems in the world. The United Nations states that the Earth's average temperature is about 1.76 degrees above the 20th century average. While this may not seem like a big change, it means that oceans will rise about 1 foot by 2050. It means that 300 million people's homes will be unlivable. It means that coral reefs are no longer able to adapt in order to survive. At the rate we are going, all coral reefs will be dead by 2100. In 2050, the Florida will have nearly double the area of floodplains, meaning the Florida Keys will be completely underwater. Well, you're probably thinking, wow, that's really bad. It gets worse. With the ocean's temperatures rising, it causes ice to melt, which causes the sea to rise. We know that. But did you know that the ocean captures about 1/4 of human gas emissions? The ocean regulates and controls our gas emissions. However, with the rate that we produce CO2, we are causing ocean acidification. This is when the ocean's pH levels are decreasing and killing the wildlife in it. This is what causes coral bleaching and what kills other animals. With our gas emissions, we are killing the ocean, and that is what keeps us alive right now. By 2500, the Earth will no longer be able to support human and most other life. All my life, I've heard this talk about global warming. People, teachers, politicians, and friends are seeing how serious this problem is. But have you ever seen something to make a major change? No? Me neither. So for my senior project, I decided to research ways to make as little trash as possible and then attempted to do so, documenting my journey along the way. I first started by answering the question, what are our personal responsibilities when it comes to environmental conservation? And then, for the last bit of my project, I educated the public by writing an article for the Monitor and publishing a website by sharing it on social media platforms. So first, I started with what I already knew. I recycled at home and I wanted to learn a bit more about its benefits. I discovered that 75% of our trash can be recycled. With the system that we already have in place, people are not taking advantage of it. Even more striking, only 9% of our recycled trash only ends up being recycled. That's because people don't know how to recycle. So on my website, I highlighted the proper ways and materials that can be recycled. Along with this, I highlight how important it is that we recycle so our waste does not go to landfills. Next, I started a compost pile at my house. Through composting, an individual can reduce their food waste by about 50%, and even more if they do a vegan or vegetarian diet. I monitored what I threw away and what could go to the compost. On my website, I also highlighted what could be composted and what couldn't. With this pile, I was able to compost food scraps and food that had gone bad instead of throwing it away and having it go to a landfill. With both of these in mind, I noticed a huge reduction in my trash waste. But I still thought I could do more. Recycling was not a 100% foolproof solution. So I decided I would change my habits at the grocery store. I started by finding things that were in glass or aluminum packaging since it was more likely to be recycled than plastic. I looked for produce that was not in bags or plastic packaging. When I did buy things in plastic, it was usually 100% recyclable. I tried to make dinners with less meat because of the massive carbon footprint it had. I had my family try tofu for the first time and they actually really enjoyed it. I shopped at many different grocery stores and brought my own bags. I will say this was not an easy change, and it did have to happen gradually, and I had to find my own ways that made it work for me. The hardest part about this entire project was the meal planning. I am a very busy student with school, sports, and work, so I don't have a ton of time to make dinners. Lunch and breakfast, on the other hand, were a little easier because I could meal prep it on Sunday, or I could throw it together before school. But dinners were a challenge. I cooked a lot of things in the crock pot and did a lot of 30-minute dinners, which made it a bit easier. I was able to collaborate with my mom and the rest of my family on something that would work for us. As far as grocery shopping, the hardest thing to find without packaging was bread, meat, and cheese. I would be able to fully give up meat, but I know my family would not, so that would not be a realistic switch for us. Instead, I made other sacrifices, which included making homemade foods that would come in packaging and eating more whole foods. Some of the meals I made included crock pot chili, apple pie, tofu stir fry, corn chowder, and quinoa salad. With my experience grocery shopping and reducing my waste for a whole month, I wanted to share it with others. I created a website with everything I learned and the research I conducted. I made many tabs, including places to buy zero waste items, educational videos, and tips I had after going zero waste for a month. This website is what took a majority of my time, but I love how it came out. I was able to share my final product on Instagram and Facebook and spread awareness and educate those in my community. For the last part of my project, I wrote an article for the Concord Monitor. This was my first ever published article, and I was super proud, and it was a big accomplishment for me. The main reason I wrote this article was to educate and inform those who may not know about why global warming is such a big deal. This focused less on my project and more about issues nationally and internationally. I was also able to share this on social media, where it did receive a bit of backlash, but mostly positive and encouraging comments. Towards the end of my experience, my main goal was to educate those around me and share my experience that I've learned in the past month. I will say, I was not perfect, I still made trash, and I still had my downfalls. Sometimes I would eat out of a plastic container, I still buy clothes and own a ridiculous amount of stuff. But I was trying. By no means was I saying that I did everything in the best way possible. I tried to make this something that was sustainable for me and my family, and make a plan that would last me years, not just a month. For me, I know that making less trash was a great goal to work towards and realistic for my life. More importantly, I wanted to show people that they can change too. I wanted to be candid as well as expressing the urgency to climate change. Sometimes big changes can seem outrageous or unattainable, but my goal was to show everybody that you can make an impact, no matter how big or small. Hopefully, you can see that every single change in your life does make a difference and have an impact. And these changes are within reach. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
Can you elaborate a bit more on the backlash you received?
Yeah, so I posted mine on Facebook on the Vote community page. And there was a gentleman who thought, I highlighted the Bow power plant in my thing, and the picture on the front cover was the Bow power plant. And he was talking about how the coal plant is kind of more productive for Bow and how it's efficient and it's working well. And basically I just responded to that comment with facts, and I said, the Bow power plant is not productive, because some lady was also trying to, back me up. And he told the lady that her facts weren't true, and they 100% were. So I was just, backed him up with straight facts, and I was like, here are the facts, here's why this power plant is so bad, here's why we need to change. And then I even referenced my article, and I told him that if he wanted to learn more about it, he could go read it, so, yeah. Yeah?
So for people that want to start this no waste journey, but you can't go all in, what would you say two things that really you think make a good impact, or maybe more on the easier side?
Two things that I would say is, use a reusable water bottle, which I feel like a lot of people do, and reusable cutlery and plates and stuff, because that's a pretty easy switch. It's kind of amazing how many people still use plastic water bottles and paper plates at home. But I would say that's the biggest thing. And then also bringing reusable grocery bags and Tupperware when you go out. The grocery bags is a pretty easy one. It's just, remembering to throw them in your car before. And then with me, like at home, my family used Tupperware instead of Ziploc bags and stuff like that to store things in. All right. Thank you.
Nice job, Abby.